Good morning. I'd like to call the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners meeting to order. Let the record state the meeting starts at 9 a.m. This is a meeting for January 22nd, 2019, and I'd like to welcome everybody to our meeting. Is Pastor Chumley in the audience? Is he here? Okay, I don't see that he's here. So we'll begin our meeting with the invocation by Commissioner Buddy Goddard and the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Jeff Rawls. Could everybody please stand?
If you'd like to join us. Lord, thank you so much for allowing us to be here, Lord. Thank you so much for giving us a free country, Lord. We just ask that you give us the power and the strength to continue to keep our country as a free country, Lord. We ask you to continue with the blessings that you've given us and ask that you allow us to see the blessings that are before us that we sometimes overlook, Lord. Be with those that are hurting, and please be with this meeting today as we conduct very crucial company or county business. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Goddard and Commissioner Rawls. Gentlemen, you see the agenda in front of you. The first item of business is item number 2, approval of the minutes for the November 2018 special workshop and the December 11, 2018 regular meeting.
I move for approval.
Mr. Chairman, go ahead.
I think Mr. Goddard did it, didn't he?
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Goddard. Do we have a second?
I did, yes, sir.
Okay, second by Commissioner Turner. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. At this time, I'd like to call on County Administrator Suggs to make an introduction.
Yes, sir. It'd be my pleasure this morning to introduce Ms. Julianne Young to the Board of County Commissioners, to county staff, as well as the citizens of Putnam County as our new General Services Director. I believe Ms. Julianne is going to come up front and say good morning to everybody.
Good morning.
Welcome, Julie.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here and happy to have accepted the position as a General Services Director. I'm born and raised in Putnam County, graduate of Palaca High. I have a Bachelor's of Business Administration with a double major in Finance and Management from Stetson University and a Master's of Accounting from St. Leo. I've served for the last 5 years at the college as the Director of Procurement and Auxiliary Services, and before that worked at Beck Auto Sales. So I've been here a long time. My husband and I have 3 little people, and they keep us busy, and I'm proud to be part of Team Putnam for today. Thank you.
Welcome. Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, if I might expound a little bit more on that. You know, it's wonderful when we have an opportunity to fill positions here in Putnam County with what are extremely qualified candidates, but it's also doubly grateful when we can do it with a local resident who was born and raised here and educated here in Putnam County. And I will tell you, with no hesitation or reservation whatsoever, I've been doing a lot of interviewing over my 25-year career. And I will tell you that Ms. Julianne's interview for the General Services Director was probably the best interview I think I've ever sat through. So I just want to welcome her to the Putnam family. Good. Welcome, Julianne.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, and welcome, Julie. So, our next item of business is Mary Garcia. Is she here? Okay, I want to call Mary Garcia up for a proclamation of National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month. I've asked Commissioner Goddard to read the proclamation, and I'll meet Mary at the podium.
Okay. Thank you.
While you come up, I've got members from my team, but also individuals from our community.
Thank you so much.
From the Sheriff's Office, members of the team are also with Juvenile Justice, and some of them could be here and some of them could not be here today, so we're glad to represent.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Okay, this is Putnam County Proclamation number 2019-4. National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month. Whereas human trafficking is the recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, or obtaining of a person for labor or services through the use of force, fraud, coercion, or the purpose of forced labor or sexual servitude. And whereas human trafficking is a $32 billion a year global criminal enterprise and is a crime as well as a civil and human rights violation. An estimated 25 million people are currently victims of human trafficking for both sex and labor, and whereas human traffickers prey on their victims by promising a life of hope and greater opportunity while delivering enslavement and profiteering from the labor and toil of their victims, who they force through violence and intimidation to work in brothels, factories, on farms, fishing vessels, and in private homes and in countless industries. And whereas awareness and education is crucial to eradicating human trafficking that plagues innocent victims around the world and in our own neighborhoods, in our community, state, and nation, and whereas January is National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month and Human Trafficking Awareness Days was observed on January 11th across the country in order to educate the public and raise awareness about human trafficking. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Putnam County Board of Commissioners hereby designates January 11th, 2019 as Human Trafficking Awareness Day and recognizes the month of January 2019 as National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month in Putnam County, and urges all citizens, agencies, and champions to commit to eradicate the evil of enslavement by supporting efforts and take action to end human trafficking. Done, ordered, and adopted this 22nd day of January 2019, Board of County Commissioners, Putnam County, Florida. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second.
We have a proper motion by Commissioner Goddard and a proper second by Commissioner Turner. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Just a few words. You got some handouts. One of the most important things is really education and learning the subtle signs. During National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month, we stand with all those who are held compelled to service. We recognize the people, organization, and government organization and entities like yourself who are working to combat human trafficking. And we recommit to bring this inexcusable human rights abuse to an end. Human trafficking is a crime. It's a $32 billion industry in the state of Florida, and Florida is third in the United States for human trafficking. There are victims in our own community, and we must do our part to stop it. By identifying victims and reporting the crimes if we have suspicions who they are. And it's critical for us to ensure that survivors are identified and receive proper care. Yesterday, as we celebrated Martin Luther King Day, I was reminded of a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. that said, "Life's most important and urgent question is, what are you doing for others?" And also that darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. So I thank you for your support and your help in shining a light on this appalling crime. I ask that each of us strive to look beneath the surface. A victim of human trafficking may look just like one of us, and that we need to work together to identify those signs of human trafficking and help the victims. Another quote from Martin Luther King, "If you cannot do great things, do small things in a very great way." Thank you very much for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, good. Yes, please do. Yes, could we please have a picture with one?
On this menu, should we stand up?
Yeah, we can do that. You want to stand up here?
Well,
This
tall
many
people can
people.
be behind me, but
Are you calling me a tall person?
That way.
When you're over.
Take a picture. Come on.
Mary's one of the few people I'm taller than.
so much.
Thank you for all your hard work. That lady right there sees some terrible things, so.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, next on our agenda, item number 4, presentations. I'd like to call up Kristen Mitchell, Keep Putnam Beautiful, for Positively Putnam Expo. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for letting me come speak to you this morning.
Good morning.
I've written down what I want to say because I'm so excited about this. I could take up a lot of your day today, and I don't want to do that. So I'm excited to share with you a project that Keep Putnam Beautiful is hosting with the cooperation of the Azalea Festival called the Positively Putnam Expo. If I were to pick one word right now to describe Putnam County, it would be potential. Potential to be more, and in my opinion, potential to be great. We have wonderful things here happening all of the time. Unfortunately, if you talk to the average resident, they don't know more than about 10% of it. For some sad reason, drama and dissension spread faster than good news here. I want to help change the atmosphere by exposing people to the good things that are taking place. On March 2nd and 3rd, Palatka will once again host the Azalea Festival, and this year, Keep Putnam Beautiful is taking over 5th Street from the courthouse all the way down to First Baptist, hoping to line it on both sides with organizations that are doing beautiful things in Putnam County. Each exhibitor is being asked to have either a banner or a board detailing the positive contributions to our county, along with a representative to answer questions and give information on how interested residents can be more involved. This will be an information-only exhibit with no fundraising or selling allowed. Did you know that there's a local pastor who, after doing foster care and adopting several children, gave up his comfortable and very familiar position to tackle the foster care crisis in Putnam County? And our sheriff's officers are volunteering their time to teach those kids to drive. That's amazing, and more people need to know about it. Our local students working against tobacco group was able to get the Putnam County Fairgrounds to be among the first few to go smoke-free. That's a great accomplishment for a rural community like ours. We also have several groups that have worked for years to bring recreational trails through Putnam County, and because of those trails, we have people moving here and starting businesses. I could spend hours telling you about the accomplishments of groups that are working to make Putnam County great, and I suspect you already know about a lot of them. In fact, it's with your help and support that some of the best things going on here are happening. Because of that, I would like to invite the Board of County Commissioners to join us at the Positively Putnam Expo. Your position in our government affords you an incredible opportunity to shape the public perception of Putnam County. So I'd like to finish up today sharing a timely Bible verse from the New Testament book of Philippians with you. Chapter 4, verse 8 says, "Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things." The Apostle Paul goes on to tell the church he's writing to that if they do this, peace will follow. We shouldn't ignore wrongdoing or neglect broken things that need mending, but we should always be mindful of the power we possess through our words. As for me, I'm choosing to speak life over Putnam County. I hope that you'll join me.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions of Christian?
Excellent. Thank you
you.
all. I've left an application and more information with Tabitha, and she'll get it to you guys, okay? Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Kristen. Our next presentation, item B, Nancy Russo, SMA Healthcare Public Safety Coordinating Council. Welcome.
Last year, SMA Healthcare established a crisis triage and treatment unit that was through
Can you speak into the microphone a little? Just, you can pull it forward.
that was through a criminal justice reinvestment grant that we partnered with the county for. We have successfully completed 1 year, and We were able to transport 183 residents of Putnam County to the appropriate receiving facilities in the surrounding counties. We transported 135 of those individuals back into the county to be able to engage them better into treatment, help them get benefits if needed, tried to find homes for them, which is a problem within the county anyway, but we've been trying to establish a relationship with some of the area community partners to deal with the homelessness issues. We've built strong relationships with the Putnam County Sheriff's Office, the Palatka Police Department, the county, the jail. We've hosted a meeting that was to identify the mental health and substance abuse and criminal justice issues within the county. And from this meeting, we developed a behavioral health consortium, which will work on identifying the needs that came up, which the priority needs were services to the jail, increasing mental health and substance abuse services to the county, addressing homelessness, and the transportation issues within the county. A similar one was done by the Hanley Foundation in 2017, and their top priority need was developing a crisis triage and treatment unit for children and adolescents. So an opportunity has come up for us to apply for an implementation expansion grant, and what we would like to do is increase the capacity of our current crisis triage and treatment unit to include not only children and adolescents, but be able to go around the clock, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So far, the benefits that the law enforcement has seen is when they come to the unit, they drop off their client, it's car to car, they're there and gone in less than 15 minutes. If we have to meet them out somewhere in the surrounding county, we can meet them under 30 minutes on average at the substations that we pick up. We have saved a total of 342 law enforcement personnel hours, which keeps them on the road, providing safety to the community instead of driving up and down the road, delivering clients to the crisis stabilization units. We've increased collaboration on transportation issues within the counties because we meet with the local Baker Act receiving facilities and law enforcement every month in a meeting, and we talk about all the issues and how to resolve them. We have ongoing management of difficult cases that we can do with the law enforcement. If we have somebody who's repeatedly gets Baker Acted, we meet and we try to figure out what the best ways are to deal with that person. We facilitated the provision of crisis intervention training for 20 law enforcement officers in 2018, and with this expansion grant, we would project another 100 over the life of the grant. And this enables law enforcement officers to better understand individuals who are experiencing mental health or substance abuse crisis, as well as the community resources that are available to them. The benefits to Putnam County. The program has provided the county an overall savings of $47,238.75 in the transports that we were able to do for the year. Through SMA's review of the transport invoices for the county, it was discovered that secondary transports being provided by the hospital and paid for by the county were not supposed to be handled that way, so that will allow for another reduction in the transportation costs to the county. And we have been assisting in the development and implementation of the county transportation plan, so we're part of ensuring that it meets all the requirements that it requires. The expansion grant requires the included designation letter and a match form, and this expansion grant will, like I said before, will allow us to provide transportation around the clock, allowing us to increase transportation services to and from crisis units, and begin to provide child and adolescent individuals and engage them in services we have not been previously able to do because they weren't coming back to the services when they came back to the community. So the match, the grant is for $400,000 a year for 3 years, and the grantor requires only a 50% match because we're a fiscally constrained county. And that can be in cash or in-kind donation. So far from the Putnam County Sheriff's Office, they are matching $52,000 a year in in-kind match. SMA is $64,000 in services and personnel time that are not covered by the grant program. And we have requested a match of $15,000 from Putnam Community Medical Center because we will be taking over the bulk of their transportations as well. And from the county, we are asking for an additional $65,000 for cash match.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions,
I have some
Ms.
questions.
Russo? Okay, Commissioner Rawls?
What is the life of the grant?
The life of the expansion grant would be 3 years on top of the one that we're currently doing.
And
So it's going to be, it would increase us to 4 more years.
the total amount annually would be
From,
for the grant?
for the grant, this one would be 400,000, and with the previous, the current one we have, that's 400,000 as well.
That's per year?
Yes.
With the current matches that you have, if you're asking us for 65,000, but you need a total of 200,000, how will you sustain that year over year over the next 3 years?
Those matches are per year
Okay,
that we would need, so it would be 65,000 per year.
okay.
Commissioner Turner? Do you have a question?
No, sir, but I did, but do you in the reading minds now? I didn't raise my hand yet. We matched this the last several years, correct? Is it a budgeted item for this year?
The 65 on the first grant is a budgeted item, and this year is the second year of that match. And we're almost at break even. There was a learning curve, and deputies weren't always utilizing the grant when they could have. I see a climbing savings. I anticipate break even on that next year.
Yeah.
Certainly break even when you factor in the costs we can't measure, like law enforcement on the road and, you know, that, and things that they have found and pointed out. The growing it to 24/7 and including children, I see this as a break even.
Okay, my original question was, is it a budgeted item right now in our current year's budget?
The new 65 match is not a budgeted item.
Transportation, courtesy
but-
transportation is.
But transportation is a budget item. So as they save us money here, we're spending it there, and it still should wash or come close.
Okay, so how would you handle this financially? At the end of the year, you would do a budget revision at the end of the year to take...
Moving it from one
to
line
take-
to another.
Yeah, to make up the difference or break even, whichever the case may be?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
And then budget for it next year.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, I served with Nancy, and she has done a fabulous job over the years. But as the chairman of this committee, we started off hoping to get savings there, knowing that savings would be there, and it's proven that there is a big learning curve, and we've come very close. But I don't want you to just focus up on savings either. This is going to be a better service for the citizens of our county. 24-hour-a-day service would be beneficial to those in need. And I think it's a well-worthy project, and I continue to support it. And Nancy, I want to publicly thank you for all the hours and the committee. I mean, we really worked hard on a lot of items that were well over my head, and you were able to bring it down to my level. But you did a great job, and the whole committee did, and the grants did, and I look forward to the upcoming years where we can see a better service and hopefully a return on investment more than break even. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
thank you. Commissioner Rawls?
make a motion that we approve the Public Safety Council's designation letter.
I second that motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
if I might jump in.
Can we go ahead and do
Before taking a vote on that, since this is final action, it'd be appropriate to open up to public comment before voting on that matter.
okay. All right, so we have a proper motion to accept this recommendation by Commissioner Rawls and a second by Commissioner Turner. I will now open the floor to public comment. Is there anybody wishing to speak for or against this particular item? Please come forward. Seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion of this meeting and open it up for any commissioner discussions.
Mr. Chairman, the only thing I'd like to say is I think it's a very good situation when we can possibly break even on doing this much good service for the community.
That's right.
I just wanted to say that I totally support it.
Okay, thank you. Any other comment? Okay, we have a motion before us. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next agenda item, item C. We have a presentation by Mr. Daniel Martinez and Mr. Ben Bates, Revitalize Palaca Putnam Funding Project. Welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners and staff, my name is Ben Bates, 3400 Carroll Avenue, Palaca. With me is Mr. Dan Martinez, 320 Round Lake Park, Palaca. As you well know, in our community, Mr. Prince Studer has been in our community, and he has agreed to assist our community in putting together an action plan for the revitalization of downtown Palaca. It will require everyone working together to make this happen and to move us forward. Mr. Studer has agreed to assist us for a fee of $20,000 plus his and his staff expenses, which is estimated at $10,000. Expenses will be exact and accounted for. We feel it should be a private-public partnership. We already have raised $15,000 from the private sector, and the city has agreed to contribute $7,500, and we're asking the county for $7,500, knowing the overall project will be beneficial to all of our citizens. To ensure openness and accountability, a 501c3 has been formed with Mr. John Rowe of CRI being the agent and the treasurer for said 501c3. Each quarter, a financial statement will be printed and published in the Palaca Daily News showing all income and expenses, total transparency. And if you've attended any of Mr. Studer's talks or discussion with the community, he's adamant about transparency, that everybody knows what's going on. As we stand before you, meetings are happening with downtown merchants, as well as the revitalization group and many other groups as we possibly can, so that everyone can be a part of the process. There has been 2 meetings where Mr. Studer addressed the entire community. Each meeting was heavily publicized. We had one during the day and we had one in the evening, so everybody could attend. As we all know, there is no quick fixes, but success is happening. 2 new businesses, as I stand before you, are opening in downtown Palaca within the next few days. One is called Young Outfitters, which is going to have outdoor equipment such as kayak, paddle boards, and other things to utilize our waterfront. It's a young couple. They're excited about it, and we need to support them. The other is a new restaurant that will be opening downtown. So it'll be a sole proprietor. He prepared his own foods. Be very similar, I would imagine, to Magnolia Cafe. And I think both would be big assets for our downtown. Also, as I speak, a group has agreed to pay for the landscaping of part of St. John's Avenue, to begin with from 4th Street to the riverfront, to show improvement and to show that there's interest downtown. I believe that there's more excitement and interest in downtown than at any period in our recent history. And as an example of Mr. Studer's success, we now have a PYP, and you're probably asking, what is a PYP? It's Palatka Young Professionals. I believe it's a group of folks that are under 45 that wants to get involved in our community. They've already put on several functions downtown, and they're about working as a young group together and getting other young people involved in our community. That's a positive thing. As we speak, Mr. Studer is conducting a survey ongoing at this time with one question, asking the community what they would like to see downtown. Mr. Studer has agreed to get as many people as possible involved in the process, doesn't matter what the idea is, so he agreed to put up $1,000 for us to collect all the names of everybody that submits an idea, good or bad, whatever, and they will be placed in a box and we'll draw out a winner to win the $1,000. So we think that's a very good gesture on his part. I would like to read to you a letter as a sample of some of their responses from the survey, if I could. It said, "Gentlemen, I wish I had some amazing insight as to what downtown Palatka might be able to use in the way of revitalization, but I'm afraid my thoughts are very general. My first interest would be seeing a weekly farmers market. It's a small start, but one that could bring traffic downtown as opposed to across the bridge, or worse yet, the next county. My second interest, which I know would take much longer to achieve, is an assortment of restaurants and retail shops. My husband and I try very hard to support the local businesses. Being residents of the South Historic District, we have very strong feelings of supporting local merchants and keeping our money in the immediate area. Thank you for all the Palatka Daily News is doing to support this noble effort. We applaud the energy you're putting back into our community. We're also faithful subscribers and feel that making a difference in your own backyard should be everyone's starting point." I just thought that was pretty good to share, that there are people out there that are interested and want to make ourselves better. A note that I just received today that I think to show you that positive things are happening in Putnam County. Some of you, I'm sure, subscribe to the Business Journal. It's a business paper that's put out weekly in Jacksonville that covers all of Northeast Florida, about 5 or 6 counties. And on the third page, it says, after growth year, market may slow. The most positive thing is, it says the top 5 areas. Change in medium sales price from 2017. Now, if you don't know, for someone that may not know what medium sales price is, it means if you sold 100 properties, the medium sales price would be number 50, what it sold for. There's that many below and that many above. I'm proud to say that the difference between 2017 and 2018 in Putnam County was a positive 27.5%. That's tremendous. That helps our tax roll. That helps our property owners. That is a win-win for everybody. So as we stand before you, we see positive things happening within our community, and we're working with everyone else as a team to make our county be the very best that it can for our citizens to have a place to live, work, and play. Thank you, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Ben. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, recently we've had a lot of talk about economic development in our port. I'd like to have these gentlemen come to us at our next port workshop. And let's discuss if we could even support this at that workshop, which I think we could. But I think it's a tremendous opportunity for Putnam County, and I'd like to know more about it at that point.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Harvey?
I agree with that.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Turner?
I think this is pretty much cut and dried to me. I mean, the private sector has funded half of this study. There's nobody up here that hasn't heard of Quint Studer and what he's done in Pensacola. I feel like that the city funded half of the other portion of it, and I just don't, the city, while it's for the city, it's for economic development. The city is in Putnam County. They pay Putnam County taxes. Personally, I don't need to take this to workshop. I'm prepared to offer them the money today, because I feel like with the transparency that they built into it, nobody's trying to hide anything. It's wide open. It's a group of citizens that are going above and beyond what is called of them to do good for our community. And Mr. Chairman, with that, I move that we offer them the $7,500 they're asking for.
Okay, we have a proper motion by Commissioner Turner. Do we have a second?
I'll make the second for discussion.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Goddard. Commissioner Goddard?
I grant you, I've been involved with all this, and it's a great idea, but I wanted to make sure before we move forward, legal counsel, that there is no repercussions. I'm all for this. I just don't want repercussions, is what I'm looking at.
Thank you, Commissioner. We don't yet have a contract or a memorandum of understanding. I think that would be appropriate before taking action, so we understand what the deliverables are for that money. So I think that would be more appropriate before taking action. Also, is the 501c3 name Revitalize Palatka Project, or which organization?
It's called One Putnam,
One Putnam?
the number one Putnam.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, hang on just a second. Commissioner Owens?
So I think really two things would be, like I said, a memorandum of understanding or contract of some sort where everybody understands what the deliverables are would be appropriate before taking action. And then we can also, it would also give you all an opportunity to look at One Putnam and the membership on One Putnam before voting on the matter, just to make sure that everything is kosher in accordance with the information I provided last week on the ethical, standards. There were some issues raised, so you all need to kind of think about whether any of that might apply, and if necessary, we could certainly seek an opinion from the Commission on Ethics if any of you thought that was necessary. And then also, again, before taking a vote, final action on the matter, it would be appropriate to also open it up for public comment if that's the direction you all chose to go.
Okay, Commissioner Turner?
So, in my understanding and your legal opinion, you're saying that we need to get a letter of understanding before we allow them the money?
That would be best, so we
I didn't ask
understand
you
what
if that was best. I asked you, is that your legal opinion?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna have to withdraw my motion if the second will allow.
I allow.
Okay, so Commissioner Turner withdrew his motion, and Commissioner Goddard withdrew the second.
And if I still have the floor,
You do?
I would like to make a motion that we bring this to a workshop and that they present us with a letter of understanding at that workshop if possible, and we can take it from there.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, may I add, the plan is for One Putnam, for all the stakeholders to have a seat at the table. So if the county contributes, then someone from the county would have a seat at that group and be involved with the ongoing function of that group. Total transparency. The city would have a seat, the county would have a seat, the other folks that have participated would have a seat so that everybody knows exactly what's going on and there's no secrets or undercurrent by anyone.
Thank you, Ben.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Danny.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, now we have a motion. Are we going to have to vote? Or are we just going to make a recommendation to move this to the workshop? Do we have to vote on
Yes,
that?
yes.
Recommendation.
Talking about moving it to a workshop, that's not a.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Rawls?
Mr. Manning referred to the 501c3. Has the IRS issued a letter on this 501c3 yet?
That is in the process of being obtained by Mr. Rowe.
So at this time, you are not a 501c3?
We have filed for it. We have filed the paperwork. Everything's in the process. We anticipate no problem whatsoever.
Okay. So for clarity, at this point in time, you are not a 501c3?
That's correct.
Thank you.
I believe it's not official, but it will be before anything is done.
I understand.
No funds have been collected at all, and we're not going to until we're official and it's done right.
Okay. Mr. Rowe, Car Riggs Ingram, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Manning, is there any conflict with Mr. Rowe being our auditor? I believe CRI is the auditor for the county. Is that correct? Or
Yes.
would there be any conflict there with CRI being the auditor? Because this might be something that would be auditable, if that's a word. Would that be a conflict for CRI since they're the ones auditing and this could come up in the audit?
Well, I don't represent them, so it's hard for me to address, whether or not, from their perspective, it would be or not.
I could say this, that CPA firms have built-in controls to prevent there being any jeopardy to their independence.
Okay. I'm just, what brought the question up is I'm trying to resolve in my head, if there was an issue at some point with the funding of this nonprofit, and CRI is the ones looking into that, in my estimation, it could bring up, I know that there's associations that the auditors are members of. I haven't, it might be something the auditor might want to discuss with them before moving forward. At a previous meeting that I was at, Mr. Bates, Mr. Bates,
Yes.
at a previous meeting that I was at, you had told them that y'all had received $7,500 from the Chamber of Commerce as well. That's not been discussed today. Have y'all received? You just said you received no funding.
15,000.
So you said that you got 15,000, 7,500 from the city of Palatka, and 7,500 from the private sector. Was the 7,500 from the chamber what you were referring to as a private sector?
Yes.
Okay. So the 7,500 coming from the chamber, and looking at the 990s for the chamber, it looks like most of your funding, actually about 2/3 of it, comes from this county itself. So wouldn't the county already have skin in the game by us funding that portion of the Chamber of Commerce towards economic development? Don't we already have money involved in this? And wouldn't that be double dipping? That's a question that you can answer later if you want.
I can't answer that. I'm not.
Okay, I'm just raising the question for the record. I personally believe in supporting local merchants. I think that's a function of the Chamber of Commerce, and in most communities, the Chamber of Commerce actually supports local merchants. So again, through our contribution in excess of $300,000+ a year to the Chamber in the form of economic and tourist development, I think we're already going above and beyond that. Those dollars may not necessarily be hitting the streets, and maybe that's something we can discuss at a future meeting, to transfer some of that money to support local businesses and merchants like you stated. The Studer Institute, and I was at the last meeting that was held in the evening. I was not able to attend the one that was held in the daytime because I had a conflict in my schedule, but the one in the evening, that was one he referred to as a spinach in your teeth conversation. He had stated then that he had been paid $20,000, and he was recommending at that time, at actually both meetings, that private money get involved. He said specifically that we need to get the private money off the sidelines. But now we're coming in asking for public dollars, and I can promise you that there's a lot of people that will come before this commission in the next 365 days looking for money, and we cannot afford to fund everything. So I'm just stating that for the record. I'll yield the floor.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, with this going to workshop, I don't have any more.
Okay, all right. Mr. Ben and Mr. Danny Martinez, thank you for your presentation. And
Thank you.
look forward to seeing you again.
Mr. Chairman, you do have a motion and a second on the floor.
If we're gonna send it to workshop by recommendation, Mr. Chairman, I withdraw my motion to go to workshop.
And I'll withdraw my second then.
Okay, so we have withdrawal on the motion and the second. Okay, we'll move it to workshop. Okay?
Mr. Chairman, before we move on, is there a time frame in which you would like for us to get that scheduled and advertised for a workshop? Would you like that for the first meeting in February?
I would.
I would,
yes.
if that gives them enough time to get the information. Does that give you enough time? Yeah. That's what I would recommend.
Okay, so
Good.
we'll take it to the first workshop in February.
Okay?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Okay. All right, before we move into public comment, I'd like to recognize a few people in the audience. Mr. Jim Bush with Florida Power and Light, Mr. Michael Leonard, editor of the Palaca Daily newspaper, and over to our right, the Honorable Ed Killebrew, and sitting to his left is former county commissioner, three-term county commissioner, Chip Lible, and to his left, former County Attorney Russ Castleberry, and we just thank you for being here today. Our next agenda item is public comment. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow citizens the opportunity to bring matters of attention to the board. It is not reasonable to expect a board that will engage in deliberation or debate on matters of which it had no previous knowledge. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. You can get a public comment card. It's at the entrance of our building. We appreciate if you would fill those out. You don't have to, but we'd appreciate it. And if you'll turn them in to Sarah Oliver over to my left, our clerk. So we'll move to the public comment portion. Is anybody wishing to speak? Okay, if you could come forward and please state your name and address.
Mr. Pickens? Ms. Connor? Ms. Connor?
Oh, and I forgot one person, Miss Joni Connor with the Interlochen Town Council. You still here? Will you wave your hand? Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. I'm Jill Williams. My address is 108 Northwest 8th Avenue, Palaca, Putnam County. I have an issue with the road that I live on. It's been blocked off by a neighbor, and it's also cost my grandchildren a year of school. There's no way to get them to a bus stop. There was no way for me to move into my home due to the rains. I have photographs if you'd like to see them. We spent $3,900 to fill in a pond to access the 8th Avenue. Since I filled that in, Clay Electrics has started using the road. We have four-wheelers, 4x4s tearing up the road. We had to wade through knee-deep water to move in to our home. I bought it in May. We got in late August. We're still having heavy rains, difficulty with four-wheelers, 4x4s. Nobody wants to help. There's an outstanding court order that Mr. Price was supposed to remove his fence to the road. Only part of it was enforced. Nobody wants to enforce or address my situation with the county. I've called the sheriff's department. I've went to the fire department. I had talked to one of the past commissioners. And I'm still having these issues. I need to know what the commission can do. I brought the court orders. The judge even refused to reopen the case for Mr. Price because he doesn't want to remove this fencing. He destroyed the road. He admitted to digging an 8-foot trench behind the fencing. So even if your fire department had to go through the gate, they're going to be damaging their vehicles.
Okay. Which road is this? Did you
8th
say?
Avenue.
And where is this?
It's off of West River Road.
Road.
My easement is recorded in the county courthouse, both sides of the easement.
Okay. Press, are you, not to put you on, are you aware of this? Any? Okay.
If you like the orders from the judge. I have those.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay, if you give those to us, you have to relinquish those to us. You will not get those back.
No, I won't, I don't need them back.
Okay, if you can give them to Sarah over to your right. Administrator Suggs?
yes, I was just going to say if Ms. Williams would like to schedule an appointment and keep her documents until that appointment would be fine, but this is the first of we're hearing of this, so if Ms. Williams would like to contact my office, we'll schedule some time to sit down and talk and see what the issue is, and if there's any assistance that the Board of County Commissioners in Putnam County may be able to provide Ms. Williams.
I
this matter.
would even have to, I'm handicapped, so my daughter-in-law, she's insulin dependent, has to walk 2 miles just to get to our post office box, our mailbox. And I've spoken to the mailman, the administrator of the post office. He even sent a mailbox, a letter that we need to pay for the road. I offered to him to pay to have that road done if he'd help get that fence down. He refused. He said there was nothing he could do. And that road is severely damaged. His trucks were damaged, but nobody wants to help.
Okay, if you'll set up a time with Administrator Suggs, he'll get with you and have a meeting, okay? And see if we can get something resolved, okay?
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, Commissioner Rawls?
Ma'am, you had stated that you had reached out to the commission in the past. Was, Mr. Suggs, question for you is, was the county aware that there was a litigation?
Commissioner Rawls, this is the first I've heard that the situation was here this morning.
Is this a county-maintained road? Was there any determination?
Nobody maintains any of the roads except Milliken Road looked like at one time it had been maintained. Southeast 3rd Street looked like it had been maintained, but here lately it's fallen under disrepair. And as I said, the 4x4s, the huge trucks, I'm telling you, come out there and they're 4-wheeling. They're hunting deer, they're baiting it. And I'm afraid for the children of being shot. I have reported it to the Sheriff's Department. They called Wildlife and Game. Nobody seems to be concerned. I asked Wildlife and Game to come out and at least do some runs out there because they've left whole deer. That's a waste. That's an offense to me as a person.
I guess my question would be, if, in the off chance that this is not a county-owned or county-maintained road, would we have any purview over that?
You know, until we look into it, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman,
I think
won't
those
be
are
able to
good
answer
questions.
these.
Those are good questions, but that's why I think we need to set up a meeting with Administrator Suggs, and now I'm sure he'll have Press Tompkins with Public Works then to discuss it to see.
Even if it's not, I would be willing, and I think it would be fair if you vote that they pay for it on their taxes. They're tearing it up. The neighbors are tearing it up out there.
Okay. We'll set up a meeting with Administrator Suggs, and you can discuss all those items with him, okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay, all right. Commissioner Harvey?
I've been here 4 years, and I've never seen you here to talk to us during that time.
We just bought the property,
Okay.
and none of it was disclosed to me. Apparently, the
Okay.
realtor dug a little
Well,
road over through the
you've came to the
woods.
right place at the right time, and Mr. Suggs will get with you, but I apologize, but I'd never seen you, and I just wanted to point that out. Mr. Rawls, Commissioner Rawls did ask if you came before us or had contacted us, and I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, I kept going to the building next
Okay, good.
door,
Well,
and
thank
I
you.
got nowhere with them.
Well, you're at the right place today. Thank you. Thank you,
Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
gentlemen. I
Okay.
appreciate your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
All of you. Have a good day. God
You
bless.
too.
Okay, anybody else for public comment? Please state your name and address.
Good morning. My name's Ed Killebrew. I live at 146 Barden Estates Circle. I know y'all are going into workshop, and I'm sat back there and debated this about the one Putnam, whether I should say anything or not. But I just wanted to go on record to say that, and I've said this many times here in there, I've lived here all my life. I'm 57 years old. About a 7th or 8th generation Putnam County. Never in my life have I seen anything starting to move in our community like it is now with One Putnam. Commissioner Rawls, you stated a while ago that, you know, about the private sector and everything, like, you know, the things like that. But just for the sheer fact of the members of the business community that have come together to start this movement, some that you wouldn't even see in the same room together in the past, are trying to mend differences and move forward and make a difference in all of our lives. Not just yours, not just mine, not just theirs, but everybody's life in Putnam County. Palaca is where it starts. The revitalization of downtown Palaca is where it starts and where it grows from. We need to step forward and do something. So I'm just going to put my vote in there when y'all go to workshop and you got something to say, you know, afterwards. Just remember that I put this little plug in there for you, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Killebrew.
Mr. Chairman.
Goddard? Chris Goddard?
Mr. Killebrew.
Yes.
I want to thank you right here because I know you're very much involved in a lot of things. A lot of people don't know what this man does, but one of the things he does is he goes to the different prisons and ministers to those people. And I'm very proud of this man. And I wanted to just say, I'm glad you got glasses that look a lot like mine. I appreciate that.
Okay. Commissioner Rawls?
Thank you.
They look nothing like yours. We have clear lenses. Thank you for your comments. And I do support the downtown businesses and the revitalization of downtown Palaca first and foremost. But part of my job is to make sure that what we do up here is in the best interest of the public. And you mentioned things in the past, but if we don't look at our past, we are destined to repeat it. So I would like to make sure that we go forward diligently in a prudent manner, spend the public's monies wisely. I think that there's a great opportunity for this commission to be able to be a part of what's going to happen in downtown Palaca from a funding perspective. We have a vehicle for that in place right now, and that is through our economic development funds that we spend every year, and maybe even tourist development. It's not up to me individually, but I do appreciate your comments.
I want clarity and transparency myself. That's not what I'm not saying move forward without looking at things. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, I'm just telling you all that I'm definitely behind that and support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, we'll close the public comment portion of this meeting. We'll move to agenda item number 6, the consent agenda. You have that in front of you, commissioners. Are there any items you wish to pull, starting with Commissioner Harvey?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull item H, please.
Commissioner Turner?
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Goddard?
I have none.
Commissioner Rawls?
I'd like to comment on B. What number?
You say B?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I would also like to pull item H. Before we get to that, if we could go ahead and we could get a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda, which would be item A, C, D, E, F, G, I, J, K, L, and M.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of those items that you just read off.
Second.
Okay, we have a proper motion by Commissioner Harvey. We have a second by Commissioner Rawls. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Approves, or opposed, same sign. Consent agenda passes except for H and B. And we'll start with item B with Commissioner Rawls.
Yesterday, when I received an email from Colonel Wells stating that they would be out of town, I replied back and told him that this was coming at a very good timing for Lee Conley House. A lot of people don't realize how bad they've been affected by this government shutdown. And so I just emailed him back and told him this was really a perfect timing for them to do this for them. So I just want to let everybody in the public know that, while the federal government is shut down, it is having an impact here really close to home. And Lee Conley is one of the agencies that are affected.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Rawls. Commissioner Harvey?
Mr. Chairman, along those same lines, I too sent an email out to Mr. Suggs asking what can we do more, if we can do anything at all. And I think you're looking at that right now to bring us something into the future. This is badly needed in our community, and to see anything stop and then try to start back up would be detrimental. So anything we can do as a board to help outside of this situation, this commissioner is all about that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. And Major Johnny Greenwood over there representing the Sheriff's Department today. And Johnny, thank you for what y'all's department do for the community and for helping out the Lee Conley House. I know they're always in need of funds. So, okay, with that, any other questions on this item? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I
We'd
move
entertain a
approval to pass item B.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Harvey to approve agenda item B. Do we have a
I'll
second?
second it.
All right, second by Commissioner Turner. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda item B passes. Agenda item H. Mr. Harvey, I'll let you go first.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board and county administrator, and also to our public works director, sent an email out last week, a little concerned about, and here's the narrative. The county received 2 bids. P&P striping was the lowest bid. However, they do not meet the pre-qualifying requirements set forth by the Florida Department of Transportation. I understand that we can't build every road in this county by FDOT standards. I realize that. I think there is a standard that we should use. But I remember back when we were discussing Barden Road, and I sent a kind of a jokingly email, I might even set it up here from my seat, that I wouldn't mind taking a roller and sitting on the back of a truck and putting lines on Barden Road. I realize that markings are important, and I don't want to negate that. But I don't see why, and I'm going to ask press for you to help me understand why we have to go to the next bidder because they don't meet FDOT when we sit in our transportation workshops talking about using standards that are adequate but are not as formal as DOT. So if you don't mind.
Okay. You want to ask a question, Commissioner Turner?
Yeah, maybe he can answer us all at once. I also had H marked, but I didn't pull it once you did. So,
Okay, sir. Thank you.
I know that if we put it in our specification that you have to be DOT approved in order to bid, that we have to accept that or reject the bids if we don't. So I get all that. We had a meeting a while back, and it's been several months ago, where we had discussed the not having to be DOT certified in many circumstances. Why do you feel that it's necessary that somebody be DOT certified to paint a stripe on the road if they use the proper materials that you make them use? I think that we can't not do what you suggested today. We can't take the lower bid because he's in violation of the specifications. There's plenty of case law on that. But we could rebid it or something if you felt necessary or what have you. But I don't see how we couldn't go, if we're gonna accept a bid today, we're gonna have to go with the one that met the specifications. That's just, to me, as simple as it gets. So with that being said.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Ross.
I know in the past with bids that I've seen from the county, there's a disclaimer in the bid package that says bids can be accepted or rejected by the county. Formalities and informalities can be waived. Mr. Suggs is shaking his head. Does that apply in this case?
If it was part of the RFP that was advertised, absolutely.
I guess would that, to Mr. Manning then, if that was in there, would that be a way, could this be considered a minor formality waived in the interest of the public to capture the savings? And
yeah, it not only in the bid documents, which I would assume, since that's our standard language, is probably in there. it's also in the procurement code, so you all do have the authority to waive irregularities in awarding bids. Now, I'll have to rely on Mr. Tompkins as our engineer, maybe to let you know why that may or may not be a good idea in this instance.
Okay, Commissioner,
One more
Okay.
question then. Is it possible to move this to a workshop for action, since we'll be in workshop and transportation this afternoon?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion then that we move this to the workshop this afternoon for action, for possible action to discuss. It would give staff time to take a look at the bidding paperwork, the pre-bid or whatever. It's normally the pre-bid documentation, but, and
okay, we have a motion
I'll
on,
second
we have
that.
a motion on the
I'll
floor by Commissioner Rawls and a second by Commissioner Harvey. Before we go to discussion, you yield the floor?
yes, sir.
Commissioner Turner?
Oh, yes. So you, in your, Stacy, or Mr. Manning, in your legal opinion, you're telling me that not qualifying for a bid, not being qualified to submit a bid is a minor irregularity that can be waived?
It can be waived, yes.
I believe it will be dependent upon the issues that were raised, whether in the qualifications that are set forth within the bid documents. I believe it would be a case-by-case basis. I wouldn't recommend that you unilaterally make this decision, but I would say that you have the right within your procurement policy and within the RFP document to look at those irregularities and see if there is a just reason to do that.
Okay, well, I'll continue my questioning and workshop, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that, I think the public needs to be able to understand maybe, it's up to the board if we want explanation now from Mr. Tompkins or at the workshop. I, for one, would like to hear why we're at this spot instead of workshop, but that's up to the board.
What's the pleasure of the board?
We have a motion and a second on the floor. You're saying that you want to hear it out now instead of taking it to workshop?
I'd like to hear what Mr. Tompkins has to say before we take it to a workshop. We might get our answer this morning, and that motion might get withdrawn, and we can move forward.
Okay, Press, and I just wanted, because we've talked in length about this,
Yes, sir.
and I've talked to the owners from the P&P striping, and that they are doing work for other counties, Alachua County, Lake County, and the city of Claremont. So we discussed that. I know you're going to do some research on that, but anyway, if you want to start.
Yes, sir, I can. The original bid, excuse me, I'm still recovering from this cold I had. Original bid required that the pavement marking contractor be certified by DOT in the pavement marking work category. That is our quality assurance program. We use DOT to help us to come up with these quality assurance programs because we do not have the staff nor the capability of going to set our own internal QC program, excuse me, for this type of work. Quite a few counties rely on this DOT certification for work categories for work done in the county. The bid document called for the contract to be certified DOT work category pavement marking. Also, the bid specifications required that the contractor be working under his name for a minimum of 3 years. This contractor had only been in business for 2.5 years. So there was two issues. One, it did not meet the certification that was advertised in the bid document. And two, that it did not meet the requirement of being in business under the same business name for a period of 3 years. Thank you, sir. Thus with the two. The other thing, we do have a policy and procedure within our procurement policy for bid protest. The contractor did not file any type of bid protest within the statutory limits as set forth in our procurement policy. So those are the three items that I looked at when I brought this forward to award the contract to to the contractor that was qualified. This is a continuing contract. There is no money associated with it. Each contractor bid a unit price item of 1. So this was an ability for us to be able to hire a contractor if all of a sudden we need to go out and notice that the striping got destroyed or is lax in one road, we need to refresh it or redo it, then we're not having to go out to put a formal bid together for small amounts of work. We had the ability to go to a contractor to do this. These continuing contracts work very well for us. We go through a lot of procedure at first to get them under contract for this. But this was the reasoning why we brought this to the board with the recommendation to go with the Oglesby contractor as the low responsive bid.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Harvey?
Commissioner Rawls, did you have your hand up first, or you? I was called. Okay, I'll
No,
go.
go ahead. Well, I guess, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'll go. Thank you. Mr. Tompkins, do we have any striping that's coming up right now that we could not revisit our wording? You said that we don't have the staff to go out there and look, but truly, we're talking about you put down, you can make the specs be whatever they want, put it down, and with a guarantee of a year or whatever the case may be. I just think it would be something that, since our new procurement person's on board now, if we're not time in a hurry, we have time to massage this a little bit and get this right. Because what we're going to talk about today at our workshop is some striping on county roads way out in West Putnam that really don't need DOT certified. I mean, I'll just say that. So I think that maybe we got some time as a board to come up with alternatives here that wouldn't be so onerous on people. And my understanding, and I really do not know where I'm going with this, is that to be DOT certified, it's a few steps and some money and some processes that have to be gone through. And we've heard from some of our local people that they're just not willing to go through all that to do business on roads that they built to begin with. So I think that maybe if we've got some time, if it's not so time sensitive, that we can talk about it at today's workshop and develop a plan of action going forward. I yield the floor, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Commissioner Rawls?
I heard Mr. Pickens say that P&P was doing work in other surrounding counties, and I know in my career history, St. Johns County School System reached out to my company because we had a 3-year contract for canopy work in Clay County, and the counties utilize each other's vendor list. So if in fact P&P is doing work in other counties and they're not DOT certified, in my estimation, it would be just a simple phone call. How are they doing? Would you reuse them? Whether or not they file a bid protest, to me, doesn't have any bearing in the matter. And by my estimation, part of our job is to try to get the most value for the taxpayers as possible. So I think everybody knows where I stand. I yield the floor.
Okay, Commissioner Turner?
Well, I thought we were going to discuss this in workshop, but evidently we're going to discuss it now.
I was going to suggest that
Well,
we have that motion, and I think
I'd
that's
like
what
to be
we
able
ought
to
to
talk to
do.
it on TV also, if I
Okay.
may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Seeing how
You're-
everybody else chose
Yep,
to.
you have the floor.
I don't know either one of these companies first, and I know that there is a,
Take a recess.
Okay, we can take a 3-minute and 20-second recess.
could you remind me what I was speaking about when I get back?
About 30 seconds.
That was you.
Okay, Sarah, we're good. Got everything repaired. Didn't lose any of the information, so that's a good
But that's
thing.
to be seen.
So we'll reconvene our meeting at 10:22, and Commissioner Turner, I believe you had the floor.
Well, it's been more than 3 minutes. I don't know if I can remember what my train of thought was.
I got it if you need
I
help.
can barely walk in the next room and won't remember why I went there anymore. I know that we, first off, what I was saying when we had to quit was, I don't know either one of these guys. I haven't been contacted by either one of them, so I'm just working off of pure theory. And when we're bidding something around here, we've got to have some qualifications and specifications. If we're not gonna do it, then we're opening it up to just anybody. Somebody that doesn't qualify under the specifications of the bid is not a minor irregularity, is in my opinion. If the person had come up and not had the required insurance, or didn't qualify in another manner in direct violation of the qualifications and in the specifications, would we waive that? Of course not, because it's not a minor irregularity, and neither is this. I have no issue whatsoever if we want to throw this bid out and not accept it. No issue whatsoever. But I do have an issue if we're gonna start hiring somebody that does not qualify directly to specifications or the qualifications in the specifications. If you want a different set of qualifications, then fine. Go write a different set of qualifications. You're also putting the guy that was a high bidder and the low bidder, you're putting them in jeopardy when you rebid this, because it's public record now. The amounts that they bid are public record now. So all the other guy does is have to come back and drop it a penny, and he's underneath that guy. So what you do is you get them in a bad position because these bids are public record. So I'm not saying that in the future we shouldn't cut out being DOT qualified or certified in some bids, depending on what they are. We talked about it last year, and we talked about the local contractors to be able to bid. That we were going to try to cut out the DOT certification on them. We talked about it, voted on it in workshop on smaller projects that they could handle. That we did not make them be DOT certified, because it's a big deal. It's not a matter of signing up and saying you're certified. You got to, in most cases, if it's a contract over $1 million, you have to be audited every year. Not financially reviewed, you have to have audited financial statements. That's $30,000 plus a year. And so I don't really care where we go with this, but I do care that we do it correctly. And I think that we either got to accept this bid the way it is now, with the recommendation of him, or we have to rebid it, because I don't think it's a minor irregularity that you never qualified for the bid in the first place. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield the floor.
Okay, Commissioner Rawls?
And I'd just like to state for the record that I do agree with Mr. Turner. As a state licensed general contractor and roofing contractor, I would not want to be in this position, and I have been here before. As a fiduciary to the taxpayers, I find myself in the unique position of saying that I think it's in the best interest of the taxpayers to look at this and potentially declare that this is a minor informality and waive it, or, as Mr. Turner suggested, putting it back out for bids. I think if we do put it back out for bids, one thing that will change is if we do change the qualifications, it could in fact lower the offering price. And I think that's in the best interest of the public. So that's my 2 cents worth, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Turner, thank you for those comments. That's why we have these discussions, in order to get it out. Press, I do notice that this contract is for 1 year.
Yes, sir.
So really, we could go ahead today, award it or not award it. we could then have time to look at our standards for 1 year, and we could put this back out on the street in another year. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Mr. Chairman, based on the information I'm hearing today,
If I could jump in before you do that, just so y'all have as much information as possible.
Okay.
The county procurement code, talking about the formalities and waivers, it's actually in section 2.100-1 under bid proposal acceptance and evaluation, subsection A. It states that the county reserves the right to accept and/or reject any and all bids / proposals, or to waive any formalities, technicalities, or irregularities. The county shall have the authority to accept, reject, or change the recommendations and award all bids as it deems appropriate. The county shall have the authority to waive any and all irregularities in bids. And then when we get down to subsection G, under rejection, the county reserves the right to reject any and all bids / proposals. And it goes on to cite some examples. So I just want to make sure that that information was out there before y'all acted on the motion and second that's currently on the table,
Right.
which was, I think, to
Before
move to
we
the
have
workshop.
another motion.
No, I'm not
Already-
making a
oh,
motion.
okay,
I'm still
Okay.
discussing.
Thank you.
Commissioner Harvey?
So basically, what I'm hearing is the fact that since we have a year, we could possibly move this forward or not today. And we could look at our standards going forward, and we could define what irregularities are. But I think what I'm hearing from Commissioner Turner is exactly right. We don't want to set somebody up for failure at this point. And I appreciate wanting to save the county money. Do you know the difference between the two bids? Do you know what that amount was right off the top of your head? I mean,
Yes, sir. They bid, excuse me, what we commonly refer to as a Chinese menu. We had about probably close to 100 items on the bid list, and they bid like 1 linear foot or 1 gross mile of pavement markings. Okay. The low bid, the P&P striping was right around 51,000. Oglesby was at 61,000.
10,000.
But let me clarify this for the board. The DOT certification is that the contractor himself has done work within the DOT and has done work satisfactorily and has the capability of doing the work. Irregardless of that, our standard specifications and standards are the DOT standards as to the width and depth of the striping, the type of striping, the placement of the striping, and the reflectivity of the striping. All go into this, and this is but people don't understand, this is a big liability item for the county. Same thing as maintenance of traffic, same thing as our regulatory signs. We have to maintain these signs to these standards to reduce or minimize the liability that we have on these items. This is one of the reasons why that we put in there about the contract to be DOT certified, because this is a big issue statewide with counties and cities being sued because their payment markings aren't exactly like they should be, or they didn't use, for some reason, the type of paint, or the stripe was 4.5 inches wide, and it should have been 6 inches wide. That's some of the reason, but please understand, we would still refer to the DOT standards and specifications for payment marking.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield the floor.
Okay. Commissioner Turner?
Again, I'd like to reiterate, I think there's plenty of case law and statute that things like this are not minor irregularities, or that they can't be waived at the whim of the board without opening ourselves up to suit. I still hold with my prior comment that we either need to accept the recommendation of Public Works, or we need to rebid the project, as bad as it is, with a different set of specifications that someone different can qualify for. And that's just my opinion, and I'm going to leave it at that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Commissioner Rawls?
Are there any extensions offered in the contract?
I believe it was for 1 year with a 1-year extension.
Yeah.
But
So
you would
10
have to approve the 1-year extension.
Okay, so we could be looking at a multi-year contract. And to your point, if you ask me, if I was bidding on a project where I was asked to use an S3 type asphalt. There's a DOT specification that meets that, but I may not have to be a DOT certified installer of that asphalt, but the specifications require that it meets the S3 criteria. So you're saying that regardless of what happens, they have to meet the DOT standard, and at that point, it's a matter of us making sure that they comply with that. But you know, a 20% difference is what you described between one contractor and another. That's a large difference, to be perfectly honest with you. We're not having a 5 or 10% conversation. And I go back to what Mr. Pickens said, and I don't know either one of these guys. I don't do paving and striping, but if they're currently doing work for other counties, I think it would be in our best interest to slow this down a little bit, contact the other counties and find out how they're doing. Maybe we don't want to be working with PMP, or maybe we want to be working with them and save that 20%, but the only way to find out would be to do the research and not be in a hurry to put this thing to bed. That's just my estimation.
Commissioner, I have responded to the other counties and other cities, and they're in the process of getting information together for me on that. Everybody was off yesterday, so I haven't had a whole lot of time to try to get this information together. Hopefully I can have some together for the workshop this afternoon.
What is the motion on the floor? I keep forgetting, to be honest with you.
Take it to the workshop.
To take it to the workshop. Okay. Commissioner Turner?
I'll just wait a workshop, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor by, I believe it was Commissioner Harvey? Or no, it was Commissioner Rawls. Commissioner Rawls to move it to the workshop, and who seconded it? Do you remember?
I did.
Commissioner Harvey. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We'll take this item to the workshop.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda, Planning and Development Services, public hearings. I'll turn it over to Mr. Mike Brown.
Mr. Chairman and Board of County Commissioners, Mike Brown, Planning and Development Services. I don't know if hopefully they can switch the display. The first case is small scale land use change 18-004. As you are aware, small scale land use changes only require one hearing in front of the Board of County Commissioners. That's the adoption hearing, so that's what we're at today. The applicant is Marcia Seither. And again, this is small scale land use change from rural residential to commercial for 2 parcels totaling 1.6 acres. The present zoning on the 2 parcels is C4. The subject parcels are located at 1036 and 1042 South Highway 17, Palatka. They're not showing up, but I think for your presentations, there's a quick aerial showing the locations. The parcels are located, like I said, right on US 17, just on the other side of the Dames Point Bridge. The existing future land use is rural residential. And again, the zoning is C4. There is C3 and C2 zoning across the street, across US Highway 17. And the request, again, is to go to the proposed future land use of commercial. Just a little brief background. The properties had been utilized for commercial uses, or a commercial use on aluminum installation and sales prior to adoption of the comprehensive plan in 1992. In 1997, the board rezoned both parcels to C4. At that point, the planning department, at the time of the rezoning, the planning department determined that the commercial uses on the site were vested to the comp plan since the uses had been continuous on the property since 1982. However, those commercial uses were discontinued somewhere, I don't know the exact date, but after the 1997 rezoning. That discontinued use lasted for more than 240 days. Pursuant to our Land Development Code, Section 90304, non-conforming uses that are discontinued for 240 days or more must be brought into conformance with the comp plan and the Land Development Code. Thus, that is the reason we're here today. Also, the rural residential future land use only allows commercial uses when approved through a planned unit development. In analyzing the proposed change, as I stated, the rural residential land use, which is over the property today, only allows neighborhood commercial uses through a PUD. The proposed land use commercial allows both neighborhood and community commercial development as long as they access paved roads that are either local or higher functional classification. The property does have direct access to US 17, which is classified as a principal arterial. Highway 17 has adequate available capacity to meet the demand generated by any development on the subject parcel. And in addition, as you are aware, Highway 17 in this area will be widened to a 4-lane facility in the near future. There are no wetlands or special flood hazard areas on the parcels. Potable water will be provided by private wells, and wastewater will be treated and permitted, or treated by a permitted on-site septic system. The Planning Commission reviewed the proposed land use change at its December 12th, 2018 meeting and recommended approval to the board. Staff finds that the requested change meets the locational requirements for the commercial future land use in policy A1935 of the comp plan. There will be no adverse impacts to infrastructure resulting from development of the subject parcel. The change is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. It's compatible with surrounding uses, and staff recommends approval of the request to amend the future land use map from rural residential to commercial for the subject 1.6 acres. Any questions of staff at this point?
Okay, any questions of staff? Okay, not at this time. Oh, Commissioner Rawls?
The question is, I was going to make a motion that we.
Okay, we got to do public comment first.
No.
Okay, do you have a comment?
No, I don't.
Okay, no questions of staff? Is the applicant here? Okay, do you wish to speak on behalf? Okay, we're not going to make you. Okay. All right, I'd like to open the public comment portion of this hearing. Any persons wishing to speak for or against this project, please come to the podium. Okay, seeing no public comment, we'll close the public comment portion of this hearing. And what's the pleasure of this board?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval because it is consistent with our ordinances.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve.
Second.
And by Commissioner Turner, and we have a second by Commissioner Rawls. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It passes. All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the second item.
Before continuing the second item, if I might, this second item is quasi-judicial. As the previous was not, that was legislative. This is quasi-judicial, so I would ask each of the commissioners to please indicate if you've had any discussions with either or any of the parties in this matter prior to this hearing, and if so, whether that has impacted your ability to make a determination based solely on the hearing here today.
Okay, we'll start with Commissioner Harvey.
I've had none, and it will not impact my decision to make any.
I've had none.
Okay, Commissioner Goddard.
I've had none.
I've had none.
Okay, I've had a brief conversation with a member of the Planning Commission and one of the representatives for this project, and it will not affect my decision.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chairman, the second item is PUD 18-007. This is an amendment to an existing PUD. The applicant is Kaiser Park LLC, agent Sam Nelson. As I indicated, the request is an amendment to the PUD, which was formerly known as Riverwood RV Village. Future land use is rural residential. Zoning is planned unit development. There is also one small parcel that is zoned mobile home park that is being included into the PUD. The location is 1393 County Road 309 in Georgetown. Just a brief overview of the project. The original Riverwood PUD was approved in 1998 for 150 RV and park model sites, central water and sewer, boathouse, wet and dry boat storage, 1,200 square foot store, a swimming pool, and to be built over 3 phases. In December of 2002, Planning Development Services determined that the original PUD expired. At that time, there were 36 RV sites constructed, 2 docks, 4 wood-framed and 2 mobile home residents, 1 bathroom laundry facility, a workshop, and the central water and sewer system. Here's a general overview of aerial of the location of the site. Future land use, as I indicated, was rural residential. This is the existing zoning. You can see the that small parcel of RMH sitting in the middle of the PUD zoning. That is being brought into the project. And this is what the proposed zoning would look like. To expedite the process a little bit, the use of PUD in the rural residential land use is allowed in the comprehensive plan. Again, the proposal is for a planned unit development. And the PUD was originally approved prior by the board, so the board has decided that a PUD is appropriate for this location. Subsection 40202A of the Land Development Code requires rezoning, present evidence that the rezoning is justified. And again, since the Board of County Commissioners had approved the original ordinance in 9822, that past action has already determined, the county has already determined the PUD is justified. There are a number of criteria that are required to be reviewed as part of the PUD rezoning. The Planning Commission reviewed each of those criteria specifically and found that the proposed change does meet those criteria. I can go through any of those if the board desires. There is a PUD agreement which identifies the changes, and I'll touch base quickly on each of those. The change of the name to River's Edge PUD. The total number of RV park model sites is capped at 100. The addition of 0.37 acres to the project. The project development will be cut down to 2 phases. Build-out is changed to 2026. Removing of the refueling facilities that were in the original PUD. And most of the changes really revolve around updating references to the County Land Development Code and regulations. Staff finds that the applicant has presented evidence that the rezoning to the PUD is justified. The proposed amendment and development is consistent with the future land use designation. The proposed project is compatible with existing land uses in the area. and is consistent with with other comprehensive plan goals, objectives, and policies. Staff recommends approval of the request to amend the existing Riverwood Village PUD to be known as the River's Edge PUD, adding 0.37 acres, designating a maximum of 100 RV park model sites, the changing of the phasing schedule. The basis for this recommendation is that the proposed development is compatible with the existing land uses in the area, consistent with the requirements of PUD zoning as set forth in the Land Development Code, consistent with the future land use designation, and consistent with other comprehensive plan goals, objectives, and policies. Any questions of staffs regarding this project?
Okay, any questions? Commissioner Goddard?
Yeah, just a couple things. Of course, there's a phase 1 and a phase 2, and phase 1 says the docks and the boat slips are going to be repaired. Do you have a time limit on that?
No, I don't have the time limit on when those will be done or be repaired.
All right. Don't we normally give a time limit of when they need to be repaired?
We sometimes do, but not all the time. And
Okay,
we
that
didn't
was
in
just
this
one of my
case.
concerns. That seemed open-ended. And the existing sewer system in phase 2, they're going to update that system? Is that my
Yes, it
understanding?
will be prior to any development. Really, the two phases is what's there today is phase 1. The future stuff will be phase 2. Prior to initiating anything in phase 2, they will have to make sure and submit a report from the Department of Health that, or this may be DEP, actually may have jurisdiction, I'm not sure the size in this case. I think it is DEP. That it will have to be upgraded or adequate to meet the demand generated by the future development. So it will be upgraded to meet that demand.
Okay. I guess my only thing is I'm not excited about the open-ended on the repairs on the docks, because we wouldn't leave it open-ended on changing the sewer system, so.
No.
I don't know, I don't like, that's the only thing I have a question on. Thanks.
All right.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just have a comment.
Okay. Commissioner Rawls?
They'll be completed within the next 6.5 years, from what I'm reading, correct?
Yeah.
And
It-
that's everything, including phase 2.
Yeah.
Okay. They'll be done in 6 years.
Mr. Chairman. Okay. Commissioner Harvey?
Mr. Brown, following up on Commissioner Goddard's question, would it be available to this board to put in there a time frame on
Yes.
fixing up those boat slips and dock areas?
Yes. You
Okay,
could,
we
you
could
could add
we
that
could
to-
actually pass it and put a time limit
Yes.
on there that we would like to get that done. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions of staff? Okay, is the applicant here? I believe they are here, the agent. Would you wish to speak for, have any comments, Sam?
Sam Nelson, 536 Clifton Road. My clients bought an existing RV park unaware that the PUD had expired, and they simply want to get the PUD active again so that they can get permission to expand and clean up the place. The docks are already completed. They're done already. And the planning commission gave us all a unanimous approval. So I'm just asking if y'all could approve us today, please. Thank you.
Okay. So the docks are completed?
Yes.
They're completed, okay. All right. Any questions of Sam? No? Okay, all right. Thank you, Sam. Okay, okay, I'll open the, any other comments? Okay, I'll open the public comment portion of this hearing. Any persons wish to speak for or against this? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of PUD 18-007 as it is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies and procedures of the Putnam County Comprehensive Plan and Land Development Code.
Second.
Okay, we have a proper motion by Commissioner Turner and a second by Commissioner Harvey. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in
Mr.
favor?
Chairman?
Okay. Okay.
There seems to be a scrivener's error in the signing documents that someone may want to check before that gets recorded. It's a in one place it references PUD 18-006 and everywhere else it's 18-007. So just for consistency in the text of the body to the true numbering system, we should check that and make sure it's correct. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. All right. All in favor? You got that?
Yeah.
Correct that, Mike?
Staff will correct that.
Okay.
We'll get that corrected.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. So thank you for your investment in Putnam County.
That's right.
Okay. Next agenda item, we'll move to the Honorable Tim Smith, Clerk of Court.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have no items today.
Okay. All right. Commissioners, we'll move down to agenda item number 9, appointments. I'll start with Commissioner Rawls. Do you have any appointments?
No, I don't.
No? Okay. I think we'll address his appointments after everybody's done with theirs, if that's okay. Commissioner Goddard?
No, I have none.
Okay. Commissioner Turner?
I have none today, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And Commissioner Harvey?
I have none, sir.
Okay. And we need to address Commissioner Rawls has accepted to serve on the, is it Public Safety Council?
I was already assigned to that one. It was Waterways and Trails. And
Okay, do we need to, I thought we had to vote on both of those.
It was
It's Waterways and Trails and then the,
CRA.
oh, excuse me, the CRA, I'm sorry, the CRA.
Yes.
Okay, we need to vote on both of those?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we appoint Commissioner Rawls to the CRA of Palaca and the Waterways and Trails Committee.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a proper motion on the floor by Commissioner Harvey and a proper second by Commissioner Turner. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you, Commissioner Rawls. Last page. Okay, we'll move to comments. County Administrator.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to turn my time this morning over to Deputy County Administrator Matt Reynolds, who has an item that he needs to discuss with the commission.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. I have an agenda item that I would like the board to consider adding to the agenda as an emergency item. Due to the time constraints last week, this item was not prepared and completed until very late Friday. And it's been a request of the commission recently to have the agenda to the commission 7 days in advance of the meeting, and we've been trying to achieve that, and so I did not want to add an addendum to the agenda and jeopardize that time frame. So I wanted to approach it in the manner that I would present this agenda item to the commission, and the commission could then make a motion to either add it to the agenda as an emergency item or not. And then that way you could, the board could take action upon that agenda item. This agenda item, and I'll hand that down. I've handed it to a couple of the commissioners already. Commissioner Harvey has one and Chairman Pickens has one as well. But this agenda item is for our fuel contract with Port Consolidated. The initial term of this initial contract expired January 31st of 2017. However, the original contract included the option to extend it for two-year extensions. The expiration of that first extension that had been approved is January 31st of this year. So that is coming up in just a few days. This agenda item, I've reached out to Port Consolidated. They have agreed that they are amenable to extending the contract again for an additional 2 years. That was what I was waiting on word for in order to get this agenda item prepared. The extension letter is attached to the agenda that they have already signed. The terms and conditions of the contract would remain the same. One little nuance to this is that this contract is based on a bid from 2000. And in discussing with staff, our new General Services Director, our plan is to renew this contract, but begin on advertising or putting out a new advertisement for fuel for the county so that we can ensure that the bid is up to date as well. This contract does have the option within it that the county could end the contract if it was our choice to do so. So I would ask that the board consider this item to be added to the agenda as an emergency item due to the time frame, the very short time frame of when this contract will expire. The public purpose of this contract extension would be for the county to be able to continue with the normal operations of both the county as well as the sheriff's office while we go through the process of seeking updated bids for fuel.
Okay. All right, we'll start. Commissioner Goddard.
Okay, I guess if you don't mind answering, and Bill, if you wouldn't mind coming up, Mr. Rulon. As far as I know, you have been very pleased with the service you've been receiving from Port Consolidated as far as the service goes.
A point of order, I think before we have discussion, we should either take it up as an item or not take it up.
Okay.
So I'm willing to make a motion that we take this item up and add it to our agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we've got a motion to add this to our agenda as an emergency item, our consent agenda. We have a second by Commissioner Rawls. Okay, all right, now for discussion, Commissioner Goddard.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to, as far as I.
Well, no, we should vote to bring
You
it.
want to go vote and bring it? Okay.
Yes.
Hold on, we'll get it.
Okay, do I need any?
Of course, you
public-
could have discussion about whether to add it at this point in time.
Okay.
Hold that thought, Commissioner Goddard.
You did.
Do I need any public comment on this?
Not to add to the agenda, no,
Okay,
sir.
okay.
Although you would, if it is added, before taking action.
Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, so we've added it. All right. All right, Commissioner Goddard.
Okay, back where I was. As far as, have they been good on their service, making sure that you guys have the fuel that you need, including your, I noticed that you have, sometimes we have trailered tanks that have to be filled so when you're off-site.
We're very satisfied, and they are very responsive to us, especially in times of disaster or, natural disasters, hurricanes. They have been very readily available to fill us up and make sure we are ready for whatever we need to do.
Okay, I know I saw that firsthand during, like you said, during the storms and things, that they were very punctual.
Yes,
They were
not
right
just the
there and
main
took
office,
care of
but
us.
to our outlying offices too, that they do keep us, we can call them right now and they'd be out there this afternoon if we needed them to.
Okay, yes, that's what I wanted to know. And Mr. Rulon, we use the same service. Are they very good at what they do over there?
Yes, and dealing with them, and we've dealt with them for quite a few years prior when it was Rozier's, and now with Port as being a local vendor. But they've been excellent in terms of their service, and especially during the hurricanes, they were on top of our needs whenever it may have been day or night, and a lot of times would bypass other people's requests for fuels just to accommodate our needs during those events. So very, very pleased with their service.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much.
Okay, Commissioner Rawls.
Under Article 1, it refers to the OPIS and the pricing above the OPIS. What is the definition of OPIS?
I cannot recall off the top of my head what it stands for, but it's Oil Price Information Services. It's on the.
Is
it's on
this,
the sheet.
the question is this something that's published daily, weekly, monthly? Like, sometimes when you're in financial transactions, they'll tie it to the, help me out here, somebody, published daily rate in August, whatever, of the
Like
CPI. There you go. They'll pick a date. So are we working off a date and time, an average rolling monthly, weekly?
As far as I'm aware, when I was at the city, when we dealt with the fuel contract down there, I learned a little bit more about OPIS, and I believe it is a daily rate that is set at whatever the port is that they use. I believe there's one in Tampa, and then there's one in Jacksonville, and it depends on that OPUS rate for that day.
So just for clarity, we're dealing with the sliding scale. Today, we have very low rates. With our recent history, we're taking advantage of those low rates. We're not stuck with 2014 rates.
Correct, yes. This rate does change. That's why it is the 5.5 cents over the OPUS. It does change daily,
Okay.
yes.
That's all I have.
Okay. Mr. Turner?
Is it my understanding, Matt, that your recommendation is possibly to move this forward today and accept the contract term and rebid it to see if at the same time? Can you have two of these going at once?
Well, this would be a contract in place that we would have in place, but it would be no different than if it was getting closer to the end of this 2-year. We could bid these services at any point in time, because within this contract, I believe it's a 30-day clause where we can notify them that we can end the contract in writing. However, since the bid is from 2000, and I believe that was mentioned in the state audit, we need to rebid that to ensure that we're working with a bid that is up to date. Now, whether we get those bids back and we can determine if this contract is more beneficial to the county to keep it in place, then we leave this contract in place. Or if it's more advantageous to move forward under the new bid, then we could end this contract and draft a new contract and get it in place so that when this contract ends, the new contract can begin, so that we don't have a lapse in our ability to purchase fuel.
Mr. Chairman, if I still have the floor, you realize you're putting Consolidated in a hell of a position, I mean, a bad place, because now somebody else, all they have to do is look at a public record and see that they're giving us 5.5% or 5.5 cents, and they can come in and bid 5.4%, 4 cents, and that they just beat them on public record. You know, I've read the audit, and I guess I missed it. I mean, I'm not doubting you at all. I'm just saying I missed that one. I've read the audit more than once. But I'm just telling you right now, you're putting these people in a bad spot. If they're giving us good service, and they have for all these years, then, you know, if we have to rebid it, so be it. But I think we need to see when this is coming forward and rebid it at least at the end of one of their terms, and not 1 or 2 or 3 months into a brand new term. So if we're gonna rebid this, we need to at least give them in my opinion, to the first scheduled repeat, which would be before this time next year. You need to rebid due when this contract is up. That's just my opinion.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Commissioner Rawls?
A couple things. This goes to what I was trying to drive at last month when I asked for the spreadsheet with the contracts that have beginning and ending dates. I think this is a perfect example of why we need that. If we could get them in order of which ones are expiring the soonest, then we would be ahead of this. Okay, and to Mr. Turner's concern, this is in the public. This was in the public in 2014. I could have walked in, made a public records request for this contract, whether it's being bid this year, next year. I know that they're 5.5 to 6 cents over the OPUS, so that doesn't matter one another. I personally don't have any problem with what I'm seeing in front of me right now.
Okay, Commissioner Harvey?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you so much, and I agree with Commissioner Turner. I do think that in good faith, they've decided to keep their rates the way they're at, and we should go forward in the next available time, put them on notice that at this place and time, we're going to go out for bid, but I don't think we should immediately do that. I think that puts them in a very bad situation. So, thank you.
Commissioner Turner?
And I have to also agree with Mr. Rawl on this, is that we do need a spreadsheet of what contracts are coming up across all departments, where none of this slips up on us again. If this was an audit item, then it should have been bid out in November or whenever, October, November, to make this happen. So I understand things slip and fall between the cracks or what have you, but when it wasn't Consolidated's fault that it slipped and fell between the cracks, so I don't think we need to penalize them for it. So I'm with Commissioner Rawls also. I don't have a problem with what I'm seeing here today, but I just think if we're gonna rebid this, we need to rebid it at the next annual time, not right 1 month into a contract. Because I think it puts them in an unfair position. That's just my opinion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, yeah, I also agree with Commissioner Rawls and Commissioner Turner on that. Administrator Suggs, did you have another comment?
Yeah, just wanted to follow up. I think Deputy County Administrator, Mr. Reynolds, is absolutely correct. We're bringing this today because we are getting ready to have a contract expire. We got a 2-year, I think, term on it after this one, which gives us plenty of time to go back out. Like Commissioner Turner and the other commissioners have said so here this morning, I think this is just an opportunity for us to go ahead and get this thing approved, and then within the next 18 months, if we so choose, we'll then go ahead and look at doing an advertisement in the future for that. But so this morning, we're just simply seeking an approval for the item in front of you this morning.
Okay, Commissioner Goddard?
Yeah, as I understand, though, this is to extend our contract through January 31st, 2021.
Correct.
That is correct.
For 2 years.
2 years.
I have no other questions.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, just if I might, procedurally, since this was added to the agenda and the public wasn't aware of this ahead of time, at the time of public comment, it should be open to public comment on this item before this board takes final action on it, please.
Okay, this time I open the public comment portion on this particular item. Is anybody wishing to speak for or against this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comment portion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve and to extend the current contract with Port Consolidated through January 31st, 2021, as talked about today.
I'll second.
We have a proper motion by Commissioner Harvey and a proper second by Commissioner Goddard. Any discussion? Commissioner Turner?
Under discussion, Mr. Chairman, so are we planning on rebidding this in a year to try to comply, or are we gonna rebid it in 2 years at the end of this contract?
No, sir. I counted 3 commissioners that were of the opinion that we should wait until the end of the term of the contract, and so that is what staff will do.
That was the 18-month window, Commissioner Turner, that threw out
Suits
there.
me, yeah, I just wanted to make sure we know what we're doing here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion passes.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, thank you again for allowing us to bring that to you. This is going to be, we wanted to do it like this morning because it's kind of an example of what is going to come to you in the future. We heard the concerns of the commission the last few meetings about being able to get your agenda out earlier. So staff in the last couple of weeks have rearranged our schedule of pre-agenda meetings, deadlines for items to be turned in for the agenda so that we could get the agenda out 6 to 7 days in advance. I hope you got it earlier this time than you have in the past. That is a conscious effort that I, as administrator and staff, is trying to do to make sure that you have your agendas early, so you have questions or concerns. You have plenty of time to research. But from time to time, things like this is going to happen, and we're going to ask for your understanding when we bring items to you like we did today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On a procedural matter, if you don't mind, going forward, when these agenda items do have to be an emergency, if we could address them maybe before the public comment and add it to our agenda, then some of our public might want to stick around for that item. Today we lost some, and I'm sure no one, well, I don't know for sure, but you know, I just want to make sure that they know up front that we're going to be dealing with an emergency item.
We 100% agree with that.
I also agree.
Okay, County Attorney Stacey Manning?
I have nothing further. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner comments. Start with Commissioner Goddard.
Okay, well, I've got a couple things. I did get to be at the Martin Luther King event. My wife wanted to go camping, so we went camping. I put my foot down and we went camping. We were out and we spent a lot of time out in the forest. It's just something she enjoys. And if anybody's had any problem with pollen, I just, my truck, which is Jeep, which is green. 2 days, every day we came back, it was covered with yellow. I mean, I could almost barely see out the back window. It was just so covered. The other thing I want to bring up, and let me get back to that, is I always try to say, you got to get out and look at Putnam County. I had the advantage of going both in Marion County and in our county, and I think our forest is much more elegant and beautiful, but thoroughly enjoyed it. The other thing I wanted to bring up is an event that we are having, the county, most of the county offices, called Rural Counties Day. That's going to be April 16th in Tallahassee, and I know that's, don't expect a lot of people to be there, but I did want people to understand we're doing this in a group effort with Bradford County, Baker County, Union County, and Keystone Heights. And Representative Bobby Payne makes this very clear. To get to a city, you have to go through a rural area. And we're very proud of our rural county. I mean, we really are. We don't want to be a city, large monopolists. We want to be rural. We enjoy it. We love it. But with this, we're going to go up and we're going to represent what's going on in Putnam County, including businesses. And I just want to get it out there. I want the public to know that we're going to be represented in Tallahassee on this day. And there's a lot of people in Tallahassee that don't always know where Putnam County is and what goes on here. But anybody who wants to be involved with this, you could get a hold of me or Representative Payne's office or anyone. Anyway, that's it. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Goddard. Commissioner Rawls?
Got a few things. I got an email from Miss Betsy Riley from the BOCC Community Association. She had a question regarding getting a library manager. Apparently, this has been something that's been ongoing for some time. She was not able to make the meeting and wanted me to bring that to everybody's attention, that they would like a library manager. And then I got an email from Ms. Cynthia Locke wanting to know if she could get an answer to her question. There was a couple of questions posed to Mr. Manning regarding whether or not this the BOCC has absolute authority to change limitations and regulations to a PUD to resolve some of their issues. And the other question was, does the owner have to comply with the BOCC's authority without jeopardizing the BOCC's decision and legal recourse? So she's looking for an answer to that. We could maybe get her that. Otherwise, Commissioner Pickens and Harvey and our families attended the Martin Luther King celebration. It was a prayer breakfast Saturday. We had a good time, and we were able to spend some time together fellowshipping, a lot of praying, and a lot of food. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I kind of concur with Commissioner Goddard for a moment. If you don't go out and see now, and let me say this, if you go out to see all the bad things, that's one thing. But open your eyes and see all the beautiful things that Putnam County has to offer. We have tremendous assets out there for the citizens of this county. Sure, there's areas that we can improve upon. We all know that, and we want to hear from you about that. But I tell you, there's a lot of great things going on in this county right now, and a lot of planes coming in for landing on projects that have been taking years and years in the works to come in. So there's growing pains with every organization, but I tell you, I'm more excited about Putnam County than I've ever been in my life, and I look forward to the relationship we have with municipalities and our partners, our business partners, in moving Putnam forward and promoting Putnam County. The breakfast was really great. The Martin Luther King breakfast was really great. And this coming Friday, if you've never seen 650 pork butts being cooked at one time, the pig has no chance of survival in Putnam County this coming week. So, see the St. John's River State College. That's their annual Boston Butt fundraiser for the athletic department. And it's up on the marquee out there on 20. If you haven't had a chance to buy a ticket, they're $25. And there's plenty of people that are selling them, and there'll be walk-ups available on Friday. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Turner?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a item that I would like to request. Back in the spring of last year, I requested a map that shows the sewer and water lines and where they are in East Palatka. And it seems like that during the last year, I think they may have started working on it some. I would like to urge Public Works to work on it a little harder if possible. I don't understand that there's probably not one person in the county that knows where they all are, that there's probably some here and some there and what have you. I propose they stick a map up on the wall, and when somebody walks by it and they know where one of them is, to draw it on that map. If something happens, nobody's gonna know where these things are. So please, if you could find time to work on that some, I think it's more important than we're giving it credence to. It's important for economic development. It's just an important document that we need to go on and get finished up if possible. I would also like to comment on this contract services list that we're talking about, or the contracts list. I think that I would also really like to see that go as quickly as possible too. I think that was an excellent idea of Commissioner Rawls. It'll give us a one-sheet location to know what's happening and what's going to happen, and I'm with him in seeing that take place as soon as possible. I'm also looking forward to a lively discussion this afternoon over whose road gets paved in what district, because on the 19 list. All kidding aside, with that, Mr. Chairman, I relinquish the floor.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Harvey, or Commissioner Turner. Just a couple of things. Just want to say thank you to the African American Arts Council for hosting the Dr. Martin Luther King breakfast at Ravine Gardens. As Commissioner Rawls and Commissioner Harvey said, they attended, and Commissioner Rawls brought his wife Dawn and their young son Liam, who was extremely well behaved. It's just amazing to see a young man like that can behave himself in public, and he's learned to whistle. And so it was really neat to see him practicing his whistle, and Commissioner Harvey was right there with him. But it was an honor of Dr. Martin Luther King, and it was a very inspirational message from Dr. Terrence Culver, talking about the past and the present and the future of civil rights in America. And I want to thank them for sponsoring that. And also, I was invited to be part of the opening ceremony for the Dr. Martin Luther King celebration yesterday. After the parade, they gathered at the amphitheater down on the riverfront. It was extremely cold, but there were a few hundred people in attendance there, and I was extremely impressed with the amount of young people that were there. They had a lot of different activities, had some singing, some praying, and I was able to welcome everybody on behalf of the county commission. I was truly honored to be able to do that. Does anybody have any information on I guess it's a car show and the air show this weekend in Palatka? Does anyone want to comment on that? I hate not to mention that.
Yeah, they're having this thing's been evolving over the past 5 or 6 years. The Palatka Airport is having a fly-in. They'll have some antique airplanes. They usually have a couple of jets. They're also doing in conjunction with the car show that started off a few years ago and has grown larger and larger. So if you're a car enthusiast, you're going to have a great time. If you're an airplane enthusiast, you'll have a great time. They do offer a free pulled pork lunch. They request donations. Otherwise, the entire thing is free. Bring your family. It usually is a good time and very large turnout.
Okay, thank you. And also on last Thursday, the Putnam County Legislative Delegation, we held it here at 4 p.m. Or excuse me, was that the time? 1 p.m. 1 p.m. where State Representative Bobby Payne and Senator Keith Perry attended and listened to our concerns. We had 5 requests that the county presented to them for funding. Just to list a couple of them was funding for the animal shelter and also some funding for the fair to try to get some new buildings at the fairgrounds. And so that went really well. And other people representing the cities and local government came and spoke also, so that was good. So I think that that's all that I have. Is there anything else to come before this board? We have a 2 o'clock transportation meeting. If there's no further business, we're adjourned.